Hey everybody, hope your day is going really well. Thanks for joining to check out our next segment of BlockFi Live. Today is February 6th, 2020. Couple of quick announcements before we get into our content. So earlier this week, we're really excited to say that we had our biggest ever monthly interest payment, over $1.5 million, primarily in Bitcoin, paid out to BlockFi clients on Monday of this week, which was awesome. We had a tremendous start to the year over here. We're going to have another big, exciting announcement next Thursday. So make sure to check out Crypto Twitter or some of the major news publications for a big corporate update from BlockFi coming in about a week. And if you're watching this, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel so that you get notified when we post new content. And drop us a comment if there are questions that you have or suggestions for other topics that you want us to cover, or other people from our team or even outside of BlockFi from the crypto industry that you want to come on the show and us to have a chat with. So today we're going to talk about compliance. I've got our Chief Compliance Officer, David Spack, here with me. We're going to go through an overview of our compliance structure. We're going to talk about the different licensing regimes that BlockFi is a part of. We're going to talk about our overall compliance strategy, and we're going to talk about what differentiates us from other folks in the crypto space when it comes to regulation and compliance towards the end. So make sure you stick around through the whole video if you wanna hear us talk about that part. So David, how you doing, man?
Good.
Thanks for coming on the YouTube show.
Happy to be here.
So I guess just to start, tell us about your background. Before you got to BlockFi, what were you doing professionally?
Sure. So my background is originally in the traditional financial services space. I started my career at NASDAQ in the group that was regulating the Boston Options Exchange. From there, I went into the investment banking, sales and trading world, did compliance at a couple New York banks, most recently at UBS. Then I went out to San Francisco and I got involved in the fintech scene out there. So I joined a company called Funding Circle, which
Public company now?
is now a public company listed on the London Stock Exchange.
Yep.
I joined as the first U.S. compliance hire and built out the U.S. compliance program there. And that sort of gave me the fintech and the startup bug. And so from there, I decided I wanted to come back to New York. I'm from the East Coast. My family is here. So I joined another small business marketplace lending platform called Bond Street, which is where I met Flory.
Yeah, that's where you met Flory, the co-founder of BlockFi. And so is that how you originally got in touch with BlockFi, through the connection to Flory, or when did you start getting involved with the company?
It is, yeah. So Bond Street was acquired by Goldman Sachs. It was sort of rolled up into Marcus, which is the consumer arm of Goldman Sachs.
Yep.
And so we were, a bunch of Bond Street people went to Marcus, and a few of us decided we were going to go do something different. And that was around the time that Flory met you. And so Flory was telling me about what you guys were building and mentioned that you guys needed help putting together a basic compliance program so you could do things like get a bank account. And so I decided, I talked to you, and I was really intrigued by the idea. And like I said, I had some experience with lending compliance. So I put together the initial compliance procedures for BlockFi and became an advisor sort of right at the beginning when the company was founded.
Yeah, so we've been working together since like August of 2017,
Yeah.
and there was a period of about 8 or 9 months where we were raising seed capital and launching the first products, but from day one, our compliance infrastructure was built by you, which is really cool. And then after 9 months or a year or so, we were able to get you on board full time as our Chief Compliance Officer. And now you've got a team of, how many people on your team now?
I've got a team of 4 compliance folks, 2 of who focus solely on our AML KYC program, which is anti-money laundering and know your customer, just vetting everybody that comes onto our platform. And then the other 2 focus on general compliance and the licensing requirements that we have, and we also just had our first in-house counsel join the team.
Yeah, which is really exciting. So, aside from BlockFi, what about crypto more generally? Do you own any crypto? If so, when did you first buy it?
Yeah, I do. As luck would have it, I guess when I first started talking to you and Flory about BlockFi, like you said, it was August of 2017, and it got me really interested in crypto, and so I started doing some research, and I bought my first crypto around that time, which, as everyone knows, was a very good time to buy crypto. So I sort of watched what happened through the winter there, and I was hooked, and so I just sort of started digging deeper. And from a compliance perspective, from an investor perspective, obviously I believe in crypto and I believe in Bitcoin. I'm still a holder myself. I think there's incredible potential there. From a compliance perspective, it's just a really interesting place to be because it's so nascent and regulators are still trying to figure out how to deal with crypto and rules are still being written. So it's a really interesting place to be sort of at the forefront of innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So BlockFi has grown a lot since August of 2017. We've launched new products. The team has grown. The business has grown. How has compliance evolved throughout these different stages of growth for the company? We started as an advisor. You built us the very first AML and KYC policy doc that we've ever had. Give us a little bit of the sequence of what's happened, what happened after that point.
Sure. So BlockFi's first product, for those of you who don't know, was a consumer lending product where you can get a US dollar loan collateralized by your crypto, and it's a product that we obviously still offer. Before we launched that product, we engaged outside counsel to do a 50-state analysis of lending requirements. Compliance in the US is particularly complex just because if you're not a bank, each state has its own requirements, its own laws that somebody needs to read and be familiar with. And I should say that this is indicative of how seriously BlockFi takes compliance, that we really do in-depth analysis and engage experts in the field before we launch any new product, because we really want to make sure we're following all the rules. So like I said, we had a 50-state analysis done by outside counsel. We determined where we could start lending immediately and where we needed to get licenses. And we built an internal matrix, and we started applying for licenses. And we're up to, I believe, 15 lending licenses in various states today, and we're lending in, I think, 40 states altogether.
Yep. And back then, I remember getting some of the responses from regulators to those first lending license applications. People didn't know what Bitcoin was.
Yeah.
So how have you seen things evolve in terms of the responses that we were getting for the lending licenses? And maybe we can also touch on some of the licenses that we've added since then, and the difference in the types of questions and the level of understanding that we've seen from regulators between Q4 of 2017 to today.
Sure, yeah. So I think there are a couple pieces there. I'll start with that last part. So I I view part of my job as a compliance officer to educate regulators, and I think it's come a long way. Regulators are certainly more familiar with crypto and with Bitcoin today than they were in 2017, but they're still a lot of regulators are still trying to figure out how to deal with it. So part of my job is to be that liaison between the company and the regulators, and to educate them about what we're doing and get them comfortable with our products. In terms of our other licensing regimes, we're regulated in a couple different ways. We are registered at the federal level as a money services business with an organization called FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That is, it's a collaboration between the U.S. Treasury and the IRS and some other federal agencies that regulate any company that deals with money.
Mm-hmm.
Then at a state level, we recently launched our trading product where you can exchange stablecoin for crypto for other crypto, and soon fiat currency for crypto. And for that product, there again, it varies vastly from state to state. It's a really complicated system, but again, we engaged outside counsel to do a 50-state analysis, and we determined there are a bunch of states where we need money transmitter licenses to do that type of business. So we've applied for about 20 money transmitter licenses. We've received 5 so far, and we're expecting to get a bunch more in the coming weeks and months.
So this might seem, from someone who's not familiar with compliance, this might seem like a crazy hodgepodge of things that we have to do just to, operate our business. Is this unique to crypto, or are there analogies in, other industries or in traditional financial markets where like other types of companies have, built businesses at scale and had to, manage a similar compliance framework?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think one of the really interesting things about it is that it is not at all different from traditional fintech companies. If you look at a company like Square or a company like SoFi, they have all the same licenses that we do. They've gone through similar analysis. We've spoken to some of these companies about how they did their analysis and went about getting their licenses.
Yeah, SoFi is actually an investor, and so they were a bit helpful to us at certain steps along the process.
They were really helpful because they had actually, just before we started our money transmitter license analysis and application process, they had just done the same thing because they launched SoFi Money. And so, I think a lot of people, to your point, think of a crypto platform as having some kind of weird different regulatory regime, when really we're dealing with money in the form of crypto, and so we're regulated just like any other fintech company would be.
And what are some of the key components of that regulation? So we have these licenses. Right. We're registered as an MSB. What does that functionally mean that we need to do, or what is it? What are the regulators checking when they're making their determination of whether or not we can have one of these licenses?
Right. So the main function, I would say, of most financial regulators is to make sure that institutions that are taking retail customers' money are keeping it safe.
Protect the consumer.
Protect the consumer, exactly. So they want to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place, we have competent professionals, we have a good security system, we have a good accounting system, and that we are going to keep our customers' money safe.
Well capitalized.
That we're well capitalized, and so that when people send us money, they know it's going to be there when they want to get it back. Beyond that, again, like I was talking about AML and KYC before, we just have to make sure that we know who each one of our customers is, who we're dealing with, and that we're licensed. We have the correct license to provide them with services.
Yep, that makes total sense. And one of the things that happens for everyone that works at BlockFi, from leaders on the different teams to all the way to Chris, who's always setting up BlockFi Live for us, is we all get trained on this stuff.
Yeah.
So everyone's familiar with it. Everyone at the company learns about the different implications of working within a regulated environment like BlockFi's business. And so we like to say we have a culture of compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody who joins gets an introductory compliance training just to understand the regulatory regimes that I was just talking about, understand what it means to work for a financial services company and to be responsible for people's money. We really do view it as a big responsibility. People are trusting us with their hard-earned funds, and we take that responsibility really seriously.
And so, outside of just the baseline requirements that we have on us from regulators, are there other things we're doing either as part of consortiums or working groups where we're trying to help move the ball forward, at the industry level, aside from just doing the things that we need to do for our own licensing? Are there any industry initiatives that we're a part of, or other things that?
Yeah, so there are a couple. I think partly because of the history of the crypto industry, it's really important that companies that are building platforms now and that are good actors are really transparent with consumers about what they're doing. So to that end, we've joined a group called ADAM, which is the Association of Digital Asset Marketplaces, who has put together a code of conduct. And each member of ADAM agrees to adhere by that code of conduct, which includes being transparent with customers about fees. You can go read the code of conduct on the ADAM website. It's public. It's sort of like, for any of you who are familiar with self-regulatory organizations, it's sort of like an SRO light, where we have all banded together and agreed here are the minimum standards that people in the crypto industry should adhere to, and by joining this organization, you're sort of saying we're going to adhere to these standards and be transparent and treat everyone equally and just treat our customers well. I think that's worked really well in other financial services areas. Go back to Funding Circle, for example, in the UK. Funding Circle put together a consortium called the P2PFA, which is the Peer-to-Peer Financial
Association.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer Financial Association, where a bunch of marketplace lenders got together and agreed to minimum standards just to make people comfortable and so that people could understand what they were doing. We've also been talking recently to the Chamber of Digital Commerce, which is one of the oldest industry associations organized around blockchain that does a lot of education of stakeholders, education of politicians, to sort of advocate towards what makes sense in terms of regulation and for the crypto world.
Yeah, they're doing great work down in Washington D.C. Yeah. What are some of the things that you're monitoring or that you're tracking or excited to see in terms of developments, or if we look forward now, do you expect any changes in the rules around cryptocurrency, or are there changes that you think we would like to see happen?
I would love to see a little bit of standardization around the rules, and I think, again, to your earlier point, this is not necessarily just applicable to crypto, but around financial services in general. It's a
fintech story for a long time.
It's a fintech story. There was an attempt to create a fintech charter, federal OCC fintech charter that
New York sued.
Fell flat. The states hated it because the states want to retain control. There's been some effort for states to grant reciprocity around certain licenses, but I think it's a really difficult landscape to navigate for any fintech company, not just crypto companies. And I think in the spirit of innovation, it would be really useful for there to be some uniformity and some cooperation between states and between different regulators.
Yeah, I mean, the matrix is that fintech companies who are out of necessity doing things at the state level ultimately encounter is a bit wild. Yeah, and it's sometimes really hilarious, especially as you start to build multiple products. You're like, okay, if you live here, right, you can use every product that we have, and if you live here, you can use 2 out of the 3. And if
you've seen the matrices that we've built, they're just they're all over the place.
And your engineers have to code them, your team has to know them. It's a lot of complexity, but
the other thing I think that's directly applicable to crypto is just getting more clarity around what the rules are, because a lot of state legislatures have not even addressed crypto. So
not to mention like stable coins,
right?
That
so
type of stuff. It's
sort of like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, where we're trying to take rules that were written 50 years ago, with traditional money transmitters in mind, and trying to apply them to crypto and to stablecoin, and they don't always exactly work. So I think it would be great to get some clarity there.
Yeah, well. One of the questions we get in some of our live streams is, how is what BlockFi's doing different than other folks? So, maybe touch on, from the compliance team, perspective, how do we look different than, maybe other platforms that are also doing lending in the crypto space?
Our compliance team comes from from a combination of the traditional banking compliance world, the fintech startup world, and then from some other crypto platforms. I think as a company in general, we differentiate ourselves from our competitors in a few different ways. One way is that we never issued a token, which a lot of our competitors did. All of our funding has come from traditional institutional venture capital investors, investors who have invested in a lot of non-crypto fintech startups and bring that knowledge and experience and have done full diligence on us, vetted all of our policies and our procedures and everything we do. We're also, unlike a lot of our competitors, domiciled in the U.S. and, as I just spent a lot of time talking about, licensed in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. And then just to sort of get back to the team, I think a lot of companies in the crypto space were founded by people who were in crypto and then decided they could make money by starting a financial services platform. We sort of came from the other direction, where we were founded by financial services, fintech professionals who decided to build a business that was based on crypto. And so we bring that experience from the fintech and from the financial services world to crypto. And we're building, sort of the point that we've been making is we're building a fintech company that just happens to use crypto.
Yeah, that's great. So we knocked out our agenda ahead of schedule. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you think we should?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, that's our compliance overview. This is David Spack, our Chief Compliance Officer. Thanks everybody for watching. You know where to find us, support@blockfi.com. Phone numbers on the website. You can always follow our corporate handle on Twitter @TheRealBlockFi, my handle on Twitter @BlockFiZac. And thanks for watching. Click the subscribe button, comment if you want us to do something differently next time or bring up something that we didn't on this episode, and see you next time.
Thanks, Zach.